Chosen one, lean in close. You didn't stumble here by mistake. This moment is divine appointment, not coincidence. Heaven has been arranging this encounter for longer than you know, guiding your steps until you landed right here, right now, hearing the very words that are meant to release the weight you've been carrying. God says the struggle is over. Receive your rest. For too long you've been pressing, pushing, proving, holding on when you wanted to let go. For too long you've been surviving on strength that wasn't even yours. It was grace that kept you, mercy that lifted you, and a spirit that would not let you collapse. Let's pause for a reality check. You've been moving as if the whole world depended on you. Like if you stopped pushing, everything would collapse. But how many times did you come to the edge of breaking, and yet the world kept spinning? That wasn't your power holding it together. That was God. And he's whispering now, stop clutching battles already settled in heaven. You've mistaken survival mode for strength, but real strength is surrender. Before we continue, like, share, and subscribe to stay aligned with words that strengthen your spirit. And if your spirit is resonating, type 77 in the comments. That number isn't random. It's a prophetic signal that you are stepping into divine alignment with heaven's timing. Even as you type it, you're declaring, I choose rest, I choose release, I choose to believe that God has already gone ahead of me. Chosen one. Hear this clearly. This isn't another motivational line scrolling across the screen. This is heaven bending low to confirm what your soul has been craving. You didn't imagine your battles. You didn't exaggerate your pain. Every tear you shed in silence was witnessed. Every night you couldn't sleep was recorded. Every time you showed up empty but still poured out love, heaven took note. Your faithfulness has been evidence in the courtroom of eternity, and the verdict is final enough. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. What you're entering now is not passivity. Rest does not mean laziness. It means alignment. It means moving in rhythm with God's heartbeat rather than forcing outcomes by sheer exhaustion. You've proven resilience, but your whole life was never meant to be one long survival story. You were designed for peace. You were created for overflow. You were called to live in a steady rhythm where joy feels natural again and your soul breathes without strain. And as you let that truth settle, notice how your body responds. The tightness in your chest begins to ease. The racing thoughts begin to slow. Because this is not just information, it's impartation. The word itself carries weight, carrying you the way his spirit has carried you all along. Imagine walking into tomorrow without the baggage of yesterday strapped to your back. Imagine facing the week ahead, not with clenched fists, but with open hands, knowing provision has already been prepared. This is not daydreaming. This is the inheritance of one who has been found faithful. Heaven is not inviting you to collapse. It is inviting you to breathe again, to step into rhythms where pressure no longer dictates pace and anxiety no longer defines identity. So right here, right now, let your shoulders drop. Breathe deep. Feel the weight lift. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to step into rest. You don't have to solve every problem before peace belongs to you. The same God who held you through storms is the same God declaring calm over you now. You've survived enough. You've proven enough. You've carried enough. Heaven has spoken. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. You felt the weight lifting in that moment, and it wasn't your imagination. It was heaven confirming that every silent battle you fought was fully seen. None of it was wasted. There is an archive in eternity filled with your tears, and every sigh you thought disappeared into the night has been preserved as evidence. Every lonely hour when your heart broke quietly, every heavy step you took while pretending to be fine, was witnessed in full detail. You were never invisible, never forgotten, never dismissed. The truth is, your struggle did not break you. It revealed you. The very fact that you kept moving when everything inside told you to quit became proof of the strength that lived within you. What others misunderstood as weakness was the soil where resilience was planted. Those tears were seeds, watering the ground for a harvest that now begins to show. You thought pain was disqualifying you, but in reality, it was identifying you. You've been marked by perseverance, and that mark has positioned you for the release now breaking open over your life. Remember the countless times you held yourself together in front of others, only to collapse in solitude. Those weren't wasted hours. They were sacred encounters. The Lord was close, closer than the breath in your lungs. While people saw only the surface, He saw the weight behind your eyes. He didn't merely observe, He upheld you. Each time you whispered, "I can't," but still rose the next morning, His Spirit was your strength. Each time you believed it was over, but breath filled your chest again, it was His mercy sustaining you. You must release the lie that nobody understood. Heaven understood. The Spirit interceded with groans too deep for words when you had no language left. Angels stood their post when unseen threats gathered around. And in the very moments you labeled yourself weak, heaven was declaring you strong. That's why you're still standing. Not because pain avoided you, but because preservation carried you through. Yes, the betrayal was real, but so was the comfort. The loneliness was piercing, but so was His nearness. And now the one who saw it all steps forward as judge and redeemer. Nothing has been overlooked. Every ounce of sorrow is being balanced with joy. Every night of weeping is about to meet a morning of laughter. The garments of heaviness are being exchanged for garments of praise. The quiet choices you made to stay faithful when compromise seemed easier now rise like incense before Him. Testimony that your endurance was never wasted. And because of that testimony, the gavel has fallen again. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. Think of it this way: you were never walking abandoned. Even in the darkest corridors, presence walked with you. He collected sighs as though they were prayers, wove shattered moments into a tapestry only heaven could design. And those memories that once throbbed like open wounds will shine like windows of glory. Where others see only survival, heaven sees destiny fulfilled, sees victory established, sees rest rising with the dawn. Your story is not a tale of defeat. It is evidence of preservation, proof that grace is stronger than pain. What once threatened to define you has been redefined. You are not carrying the identity of a victim, but of one sustained, one preserved, one entrusted with testimony. And now, as this new chapter opens, the words inscribed across it are clear and irrevocable. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. What you went through was never random, and it was never just about people. From the beginning, the battle was spiritual. Long before you prayed your first prayer, long before you spoke the name of God with your lips, your life carried a mark. The enemy saw it. He recognized the assignment on your head before you did, and he launched his attack early. That's why the storms came when you were still unprepared. Why resistance appeared in places that didn't make sense. It wasn't bad luck. It was targeted warfare. The truth is, your warfare was about identity. Hell tried to convince you that you were cursed, forgotten, unworthy. That was never the truth. What really happened is that your obedience terrified the darkness. Even before you walked fully in your calling, the ripple effect of your faith threatened to break chains in people you hadn't even met yet. That's why the pressure was so intense. That's why you were misunderstood, underestimated, isolated. You weren't fighting for a paycheck, or reputation, or momentary gain. You were fighting for destiny, for legacy, for the sound of freedom echoing through generations. Think about the patterns, the delays that made you question God's timing, the betrayals that cut deeper than words, the cycles that made you wonder if something was wrong with you. They weren't coincidences. They were strategies, engineered to slow you down, to fill you with doubt, to keep you from standing in confidence. But here you are, still standing. That's proof that you were preserved by a power greater than every weapon formed against you. Your survival itself is evidence that heaven had already settled the verdict before the trial even began. And the enemy's mistake, he underestimated the resilience placed in you. He thought if he stacked enough losses, your faith would collapse. He thought if he placed you in rooms where no one understood, you would shrink. He thought if he flooded your mind with fear and anxiety, you would surrender before the battle turned. But he didn't account for heaven's reinforcement. He didn't calculate the angels assigned to you, the prayers of Jesus himself interceding on your behalf, the spirit inside you refusing to let your light go out. That's why you can sense it even now. The atmosphere has shifted. The war that felt endless is breaking apart. You're no longer fighting from the ground up. You're fighting from victory already sealed. The verdict in the spirit has been decided. You win, and what was finished in heaven is about to manifest on earth. Doors that resisted you will open. Strongholds that mocked you will collapse. The very places where you were attacked hardest will become the ground where you shine brightest. This is not your imagination. This is confirmation. Even the nightmares you carried, the mental battles you could not explain to anyone, were part of this war. The intrusive thoughts, the sudden waves of despair, the heaviness that tried to follow you into every room, none of it was random. It was all resistance to the light you carry, yet none of it succeeded. The fact that you are still here listening, still breathing, still open to hope, is proof that the plans of darkness failed and the power of heaven prevailed. That is why peace is arriving now, not as a fragile truce, but as a permanent decree. So as you breathe in this moment, realize the battle was always spiritual, but so is the victory. You're stepping into visible proof of what heaven already decreed. You've endured enough, pressed enough, fought enough. Now the gavel echoes again across your life. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. And with that rest comes evidence, undeniable and unshakable, that what once warred against you has lost its grip forever. There comes a moment when heaven issues a decree that changes the atmosphere. You have felt the grind, the endless cycle of effort that left you drained, as if every step forward cost twice as much energy as it should. You prayed, you fasted, you pushed with everything inside you, and yet progress felt delayed. Blessings seemed to slip through your hands, and the fight never seemed to end. But listen carefully, the decree has been spoken enough. Heaven has announced that the season of striving is closing. For so long, every breakthrough seemed tied to struggle. Every blessing seemed locked behind another wall of resistance, and you wondered if you were doing something wrong, if somehow your prayers weren't enough, or if your faith was too small. But none of that was true. The struggle wasn't punishment, it was training. The weight you carried was building spiritual muscle, even when it felt like it was breaking you. But now the training season has done its work. The strength has been formed. The faith has been tested. The foundation is unshakable. And heaven is saying the refining fire has accomplished its purpose. This is where the shift happens. Where once you had to chase opportunity, now opportunity will come looking for you. Where once you had to knock on doors until your hands were raw, now the right doors will swing open at your arrival. Where once you had to fight to be seen, your presence itself will command respect. Not because you forced it, but because God's favor has gone before you. What was once delayed is now accelerating. What once took years will unfold in weeks. The heavy resistance you felt has given way to a lighter atmosphere. You will sense the change in your spirit before you see it with your eyes. And here's the beauty of it, the work won't disappear, but the weight will. You'll still move forward, but without the burden of exhaustion. You'll still build, but without fear driving you. The anxiety that once chased you will lose its voice, and peace will set the rhythm of your days. This is not a pause, it's a realignment. Heaven is syncing you with its cadence. You are moving from frantic energy into divine flow. You'll notice the difference not only in results, but in how your soul feels while getting there. It's important to say this clearly, rest does not mean inactivity. It means spirit-led activity. It means you no longer burn yourself out trying to force outcomes, but you move with the current of God's grace. This is the Zechariah 4-6 reality. Not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. You will still act, still labor, still show up. But the power source has shifted. No longer your grit alone, but his spirit empowering you. And when the spirit empowers, what used to feel impossible becomes inevitable. Helpers will arrive without your request. People assigned to your journey will carry part of the weight you once shouldered alone. They will recognize your value without explanation, honor your presence without you proving it. This is covenant alignment. Heaven's design to ensure you no longer walk exhausted but supported, no longer isolated but accompanied by those who see you through God's eyes. So breathe differently now. Carry yourself with this knowing the gavel has struck. The season of constant striving is over. You are stepping into grace, into flow, into a rhythm that feels like home. The doors will open, the weight will lift, and peace will replace panic. And every time your mind tries to drag you back into overworking, remember this decree. The struggle is over, receive your rest, and walk forward with the confidence that the work ahead will be marked not by exhaustion, but by glory. Rest is often misunderstood. Many think it means doing nothing, stepping away, collapsing into idleness. But heaven's definition of rest is different. Rest is alignment. Rest is when your inner world syncs with God's rhythm, when you stop rushing to make life happen on your own terms and start moving in the cadence of His Spirit. This is why Jesus could sleep in a storm. It wasn't because He didn't care about the waves, but because He was aligned with a greater reality. The storm wasn't greater than His assignment, and peace inside Him was stronger than the chaos outside. That same alignment is what heaven is inviting you into now. The world celebrates busyness as if motion equals progress. But you can be moving fast in the wrong direction and still end up empty. You can fill your calendar, drain your body, scatter your energy, and still miss your purpose. Rest reorders that chaos. Rest is not passive, it is power under perfect timing. When you walk in rest, you begin to see how little striving is required for things to fall into place once you are aligned with God's design. Peace itself becomes your compass, telling you when to step, when to wait, and when to release. You've known what it feels like to labor in panic, the late nights rehearsing problems, the heavy mornings waking with dread, the decisions made out of fear of what might happen. That is not the life God intends for you. In this new season, your decisions will be birthed from clarity, not chaos. Your steps will be steady because they flow with His Spirit. You won't have to prove yourself constantly. You won't have to force doors open. You won't have to explain your worth. Rest will do the proving. Favor will speak for you. Peace will open doors for you. Alignment will usher you where striving never could. And here is the mystery: when you live from rest, your productivity increases, not decreases. Heaven adds acceleration to your obedience. What used to take years begins to unfold in months. What felt impossible suddenly feels natural. You look around and realize the results are greater, but your effort feels lighter. That's the evidence of divine alignment. You're no longer moving alone. You're moving with heaven's wind behind your back. And when the Spirit carries you, you do more with less strain because the weight is no longer yours to bear. Rest also becomes protection. It shields you from unnecessary battles. It gives you discernment to say no to distractions, even if they look like opportunities. It guards your energy so you don't waste it on relationships or commitments that drain rather than build. This kind of rest is a filter, keeping you aligned with assignments that truly matter. And the more you honor it, the more clearly you'll hear God's whispers guiding your steps. Think again of Jesus in that boat, resting while the storm raged. He was not careless, He was centered. That is the picture of your new posture. The storms may still come, but they will no longer have permission to control you. You will carry calm into chaos, peace into pressure, and clarity into confusion. And everywhere you go, people will notice that difference. Not because you tried harder, but because you chose alignment over anxiety, rest over rushing, faith over fear. So step into this posture fully. Lay down the urge to hurry. Resist the temptation to prove. Release the false belief that constant motion equals value. Your worth is not in your productivity. Your worth is sealed in God. And as you walk in alignment, you will see the beauty of rest, not absence of motion, but motion without strain, not silence, but harmony, not emptiness, but fullness of peace. This is the lifestyle being given to you, the proof that heaven's decree is already unfolding. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. When heaven declares the struggle over, it does not leave you empty-handed. God never removes without replacing, never closes without opening, never takes away without pouring back something greater. This is the mystery of the divine exchange. For every ash left in your hands from what was burned, beauty is already prepared. For every tear of mourning, joy has been measured and stored. For every garment of heaviness, a new garment of praise has been tailored in heaven's design, fitted exactly for your life and your calling. This is not theory, it's law in the kingdom. Nothing surrendered to God remains barren. He doesn't balance the scales with equality, he tips them with abundance. That's why scripture speaks of double for your trouble, joy for mourning, peace for pressure. You thought loss would leave you empty, but what's arriving is greater than what was taken, because the kingdom does not restore at the level of damage, it restores at the level of destiny. And your destiny demands increase, not just repair. Think about the seasons where you felt stripped, when people left without warning, when doors shut that you thought would always remain open. Those moments were real and painful, but they were not the end. Heaven was keeping account. And now repayment comes not as a trickle, but as overflow. You will walk into rooms that once intimidated you and realize you've outgrown the fear. You will see faces that once caused pain and realize healing has replaced bitterness. The very places that exposed your wounds will become platforms for your testimony. And here's the deeper part of this exchange. It doesn't only change your circumstances, it changes you. Fear is traded for authority. Insecurity is traded for confidence. Anxiety is traded for unshakable peace. And people around you will ask, how are you still standing? How are you still smiling? They will assume you are strong. But the truth is, you're no longer leaning on your own strength. You are leaning on the one who has taken the ashes from your hands and placed glory in them instead. The divine exchange is also generational. What you receive will not stop with you. Others will watch the evidence of your restoration and realize that if God did it for you, He can do it for them. Your testimony becomes a prophetic invitation for breakthrough. The beauty you wear, the peace you carry, the joy you radiate will speak louder than sermons, louder than explanations, louder than arguments. It will preach the reality of heaven's abundance without a single word. Understand this clearly, heaven never leaves a vacuum. Where pain once lived, purpose now takes residence. Where shame tried to write your name, honor is inscribed instead. Where lack echoed loudly, provision sings louder still. This is the kind of exchange that cannot be explained in natural terms. It shocks observers, confuses doubters, and silences critics, because it is undeniably divine. And when they see it, they won't just marvel at your story, they'll be confronted with God's glory resting upon you. So bring Him the ashes, bring Him the fragments, bring Him the heavy garments you've worn for too long, because the trade has already been made in the Spirit. Now it's unfolding in your life. And as you step into this exchange, let your posture shift. Lift your head, square your shoulders, walk as one clothed not in grief but in glory, not in despair but in destiny. This is the fulfillment of the promise written over you. The gavel strikes again. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. And in that rest, the divine exchange is revealed in full. One of the greatest reasons heaven is calling you into rest is because the question of provision has already been answered. The struggle of wondering how you will make it, when the help will come, and where the resources will arrive from is no longer yours to carry. Long before the problem appeared, the provision was secured. Before the need rose, the answer was arranged. Before the battle unfolded, the victory was written. You have been worrying about a table that has already been set. This is why the Psalm says the table is prepared in the presence of enemies. Not after they leave, not once the room is safe, but right in the middle of doubt and resistance. God sets the table so that every watching eye sees His faithfulness displayed. That table is not symbolic only, it is real provision, real opportunity, real resources. And you are about to sit down and eat in peace while others wonder how the feast appeared out of nowhere. Heaven did not forget you, it simply prepared in advance. Think about Israel entering the land of promise. They stepped into vineyards they did not plant, houses they did not build, and wells they did not dig. It wasn't because they stole it, it was because God stored it. In the same way, you are stepping into rooms where the labor has already been done. You will drink from wells you never dug, benefit from labor you never exhausted yourself to create, and walk into doors that open because your name was already on the reservation. This is what prepared provision looks like. It feels like inheritance. Even if you don't see it yet, trust this heaven's delivery system has already dispatched it. Angels have carried what you need from heaven's storehouse into the timeline of your life. It may not be visible in this moment, but it is waiting at the appointed place. And when you arrive, the match will be undeniable. The person you meet, the opportunity that opens, the resource that flows it will fit too perfectly to be coincidence. It will bear the fingerprints of God's planning. This is why you don't have to manipulate, don't have to hustle, don't have to force what is already yours. Rest because it's prepared. Trust because it's appointed. The provision was not an afterthought, it was part of the blueprint. You were not left behind, you were preserved until the timing aligned, and now the timing is aligning. The season where you fought to survive is giving way to the season where you sit at the table and eat without fear. Picture yourself sitting at that table, eating in peace while those who doubted you watch in silence. Not because you sought revenge, but because God wanted the testimony undeniable. They will see that provision is not luck, not manipulation, not favoritism, it is covenant. And no one can cancel a covenant that God Himself has signed. That's why you can rest. The table is already set, and your seat is secure. And remember this, the table is not just for you. Your provision will overflow into others. The cup runs over so that those connected to you will taste the goodness too. People will look at your life and recognize the evidence of God's abundance. They will see peace where there should have been panic, joy where there should have been despair, provision where there should have been lack. And your testimony will declare louder than words. The struggle is over, receive your rest. Rest is not weakness, it is worship. It is the sound of trust louder than striving, the posture of surrender louder than panic. When you finally stop clutching outcomes and start opening your hands, heaven reads that as faith. To receive rest is to declare, God, I trust you more than I trust my control. That is worship in its purest form. Many of you have been taught that rest is optional, something you'll earn one day when the work is done. But heaven is saying rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. It is the atmosphere where God can do what your effort never could. When you choose rest, you are choosing to believe that He is God and you are not. That's why the enemy fought to keep you restless. Because he knew if you ever discovered the weapon of rest, his schemes would collapse. Rest is not sitting in silence, waiting for nothing to happen. Rest is an active agreement with heaven. It says, I will not be manipulated by fear. I will not be rushed by pressure. I will not be enslaved to the pace of culture. Rest is you moving in obedience but refusing anxiety. Rest is you showing up, but without the weight of proving. Rest is you releasing the demand to know every detail and trusting that God already has the map. Think about what happens in the natural. When you sleep, your body heals. When you rest, your cells repair, your strength rebuilds, your mind clears. In the spirit, it is the same. When you step into rest, your soul heals. Your spirit becomes sensitive to His whispers again. Your vision clears. The anxiety that fogged your decisions dissolves. This is why you are being called into rest, not because the journey is finished, but because the next steps require clarity only rest can bring. Receiving rest is not just about you feeling better. It is a prophetic declaration. It tells the atmosphere around you that your hope is anchored, that your source is secure, that your trust is unshaken. It tells darkness that it cannot manipulate you with noise. It tells pressure that it cannot own your pace. It tells fear that it cannot define your choices. Rest becomes your loudest act of defiance against the enemy. And here is the invitation: lay down survival mode. You've been living with adrenaline as your fuel, always on alert, always bracing for the next blow. But heaven is saying enough. Lay it down. You are not being asked to collapse. You are being invited to exhale. This is not about giving up, it's about giving over. There is a difference. Giving up says, I'm done. Giving over says, God, you've got this. And that's worship. Imagine what your days will look like when rest itself becomes your worship song. Every calm decision, every peaceful response, every refusal to panic becomes incense rising before God. Your quiet confidence will shift the atmosphere in your home, your workplace, your relationships. People will feel the difference without you saying a word, because true rest carries the fragrance of heaven wherever you go. So tonight, lift your hands even if only in your heart, and let that gesture become your surrender. Breathe slowly. Say within yourself, I choose to rest. And as you do, heaven reads that as worship. Heaven records it as faith. And the decree resounds again. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. And this time, it is not encouragement, it is instruction. Let rest be your altar, your offering, your loudest hallelujah. It's one thing to talk about rest as a spiritual gift, but another to live it daily. Rest must move from revelation to rhythm, from concept to practice. This is where your life begins to change in tangible ways. It's not just about what you believe, but how you live. Living from rest is choosing rhythms that guard your peace, habits that protect your clarity, and boundaries that keep you aligned with God's cadence. You will notice it in small choices. Saying no without guilt when something does not carry God's signature. Choosing to pause before answering, rather than reacting out of fear. Deciding to protect your mornings. Giving God your first focus before the noise of the world intrudes. These are not random habits, they are sacred practices. They teach your body and your soul to move at a pace set by heaven, not by pressure. Living from rest means you no longer live in constant urgency. Urgency says, hurry or you'll miss it. Rest says, what's for me is already secured. Urgency keeps you anxious, striving, bracing. Rest keeps you calm, steady, discerning. You'll find yourself less reactive, more responsive, less scattered, more centered. That shift is not personality, it is posture. It is the posture of a soul anchored in peace. And this lifestyle of rest will shape every sphere of your life. In your relationships, you'll stop pouring into people who only drain. You'll learn to love deeply but wisely, giving without depleting yourself. In your work, you'll move with strategy instead of stress, clarity instead of chaos. In your decisions, you'll wait for confirmation rather than forcing outcomes. And because of that, you'll notice fewer regrets, fewer detours, fewer battles you were never supposed to fight. Rest also sharpens discernment. When your spirit is calm, you can hear God's whispers clearly. Anxiety drowns his voice, but peace amplifies it. You'll sense when an opportunity is real and when it's a distraction. You'll know when to step forward boldly and when to remain still. Rest becomes a filter for your yes and your no. And each decision made in that clarity preserves your energy for what actually matters. Make no mistake, this lifestyle takes practice. You'll feel the temptation to slip back into striving. You'll feel pressure to explain yourself when you choose boundaries. But each time you resist that pressure, you reinforce heaven's rhythm inside you. And over time, it becomes natural. Your nervous system heals, your body relaxes, your mind clears, your spirit grows sensitive. Peace is no longer a visitor, it is a resident. So start small if you need to. Take moments each day to breathe, to pause, to realign. Guard your morning, protect your nights. Learn the holy no and the obedient yes. Let stillness teach you strategy. Let silence sharpen your hearing. And as you do, you'll discover that daily rest is not laziness, but authority. It is a lifestyle that announces to the world, the struggle is over. Receive your rest. And when you embody that truth, rest will not just be something you enter into. It will be something you embody, something you carry everywhere you go. Your rest will become contagious. The calm you carry will settle rooms, soften conflicts, and disarm tension. People will feel safe in your presence without knowing why. They will notice that your peace isn't fragile but unshakable, and they'll crave it. That craving will become an open door for your testimony, because you'll be able to say with confidence, this is what happens when heaven teaches you how to rest. Now comes the commissioning. You are not only being invited into rest, you are being crowned by it. Rest is not the end of your journey, it is the posture you will carry into every step forward. This is not a season that will come and go like others. This is a lifestyle, a new way of moving, a permanent rhythm that will mark your life from this point on. Heaven is not just saying pause, Heaven is saying, live this way. Hear these declarations and let them settle deep inside. You will walk with calm that cannot be shaken. You will carry peace that silences storms. You will wear joy like a garment that cannot be torn. Your steps will be steady, your decisions clear, your energy guarded. You will no longer live as one bracing for survival, but as one seated at the table of abundance. You are crowned with calm, wrapped in peace, clothed in authority. Everywhere you go, this rest will testify. It will be your crown, your fragrance, your shield. When you step into a room, people will notice a difference. Not because you tried to prove yourself, but because peace proves itself. The rest of God will go before you as a banner that says this life is kept, this soul is anchored, this one has been preserved. And that testimony will be louder than anything you could speak. This lifestyle of rest is also a mantle of authority. It announces to the atmosphere that you refuse to be rushed, manipulated, or enslaved by fear. It tells every scheme of darkness that its attempts have failed. It tells every anxious thought that its reign is over. Your calm becomes your crown. Your stillness becomes your strength. Your trust becomes your testimony. Do not underestimate what is happening here. This is more than encouragement, it is commissioning. You are being sent into your future, not as one exhausted, but as one renewed. You are being positioned, not as one carrying yesterday's ashes, but as one wearing heaven's beauty. The sound of striving is behind you. The sound of peace is before you, and the decree echoes again and again. The struggle is over, receive your rest. So walk in it boldly. Wake each morning with assurance that peace is your inheritance. Move through each day with authority that rest is your rhythm. And close your eyes each night knowing you are held. This is not temporary. This is eternal alignment. This is your new normal. And as you carry it, others will feel it. They will sense the difference. They will crave the calm. And you will become a living invitation for them to discover that the same God who gave you rest is offering it to them too. You are commissioned as an ambassador of rest. Wherever you go, atmospheres will bend to the peace you carry. Chaos will shrink in your presence, and heaviness will lift from those around you. This is your inheritance and your assignment to embody the calm of heaven in a restless world. And as you live it, your life itself will declare the gospel of rest louder than any sermon could. This is your mantle now, and it will not be taken away. This is your commissioning. Step forward not in fear, but in peace. Move not in panic, but in purpose. Stand not in striving, but in surrender. And let the crown of calm upon your head be the proof that heaven has spoken over your life. From this day forward, let your presence preach it without words. The struggle is over. Receive your rest. Now the voice softens. The fire turns to a steady glow. The word that roared like thunder now settles like a blanket. You have walked through the storm